Good to have you. Good to see you. So thanks for joining us. So I'm going to be interviewing Patrick Mizer. He's the Senior Vice President of Engineering at Storable. He's obviously part of the leading brand behind SiteLink, Storage, Sparefoot, and StoreSmart Beta, where he oversees the software engineering and develops he develops in data engineering teams. The DevOps. So the goal today is we're going to share some thoughts about technology in the industry. And as the technology continues to improve, the advancements in self-storage software continue to get better as well. So we're fortunate to have Patrick here today. He's going to be helping us and talking a little bit about what's going on at Storable and in the industry as a whole. Patrick, why don't you give us a little brief background about you and what you've been up to?
Yeah, happy to. Thanks for the intro, Ian, and thanks everyone for having me participate in this. I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk about technology, which is my big passion, obviously, and how that applies to the self-storage industry. A little bit of my background. I've been writing software professionally since 2002, for fun well before that, and actually transitioned into the self-storage space in 2009 as part of the founding team of Sparefoot. So it's been a pretty unique journey in that I've been part of the self-storage industry for the last 12 years. And I've been here long enough to see a couple of real estate cycles play out, which has been interesting. Particularly early on, we thought we knew what we were doing and how all this played together, and you sort of figure out the cyclical nature of the industry. But it's been incredibly fun and rewarding to see how the industry has grown, particularly its attitude and use of technology. As you can imagine, it's quite a different space today than it was in 2009. It's been a lot of fun being part of that and sort of being a champion for how storage facilities can run better businesses with technology. Before we kick it back to Ian to kick off the questions, a few other little tidbits about me. I'm a native Texan. I live here in Austin, Texas, with my wife and 3 kids. Where today, kind of ironically, it's 49 degrees and raining, so it's a great time for a fireside chat. I'm really looking forward to talking to you guys today.
I have to throw a couple extra logs on today, right? So
that's right.
Yeah, so great. So obviously, COVID. Patrick, diving right in because we're only about 20 minutes together, but COVID's created many changes. Obviously, some will likely be permanent. What are you hearing from your clients on this front? Like, what are the big issues and hot buttons that you specifically are addressing?
Yeah, it's been crazy how much COVID has changed the way that all of us live our lives today. The Microsoft CEO, a couple months into the pandemic, said somewhat famously that COVID has forced about 2 years of digital transformation in 2 months, and we certainly seen that play out in the storage industry and some of the conversations I've had with our clients. Kind of prepping for this conversation, I spent some time thinking about what the world was like in April of 2020, where things got really scary, right, for the industry. Certainly for Storable, as it was unclear at that time whether statewide lockdowns were going to go into place, whether people were going to be able to physically be able to go into storage facilities anymore. And certainly, what we heard from our clients at that time was a race to how do we get to a place where we can facilitate contactless move-ins, which has been like a concept that's now like in the vernacular of the industry. But in 2020, what was that, right? And so I think as the Microsoft CEO kind of called out, it's really from what I've seen in conversations with clients, really accelerated the shift to digital in the self-storage space, and we were heading that way anyway. But I certainly think the 2 year and 2 month comparison is appropriate. And so some of the things that we're seeing, and we've got a lot of good analytics on Sparefoot, which is our online marketplace. We can see some of this stuff play out, right? You're seeing a shift, obviously, to online rentals. Some of that was by necessity. Online move-ins and payments shifting away from cash and to credit cards, right? Recurring credit card payments. Also, the concept of contactless move-ins. A lot of this was driven by necessity at the time, but as sort of the quarantining has abated, that behavior has stuck around, and we believe that behavior is kind of here to stay. I think the most interesting thing, and again, kind of thinking about was going to talk to you guys about today. One of the more interesting trends that we're seeing on the Sparefoot site is a shift in all demographics year over year to digital forms of move-in and transacting with the self-storage industry. But the 65 plus demographic, I think, is the most interesting. It's actually increased 40% from 2019 to 2020, and another 20% from 2020 to 2021. And as I was thinking, is that an anomaly in the data? Is this really what's happening? My personal story: my in-laws have finally moved down to Texas from Seattle because they have 3 grandchildren here, and my mother-in-law, my 7-year-old mother-in-law, is now ordering groceries online to be delivered to her house, right? And prior to this, I'd get frustrated. Before the pandemic, she wouldn't use GPS in her car; she would draw the map out, right? Which is like, I don't know how to describe how you get there. So I think we're seeing it both from a quantitative and qualitative perspective, and like I said, I think we believe these changes are here to stay, at least many of them. And as a technologist, don't love the way that we got here necessarily, but I think there's I think the ways that we can help through our digital platforms as technologists is certainly exciting for the self-storage industry going forward.
So, for example, you guys are your whole company is now remote, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's actually we have been all remote. We've closed all of our offices. We're all working on Zoom. Everything is remote today. And if you think about some of the companies we've acquired, not even having laptops issued to them prior to the acquisition, we got there just in the nick of time. But another place where, that digitization has really been accelerated.
Yeah, crazy. It's ironic your in-laws left Tech City, come to Texas to finally learn technology. So
we could have a whole conversation about my in-laws moving from Seattle to Texas. It's pretty funny.
I'm sure we could. There's a lot of in-law conversations to be had, I'm sure. So in your position, so you've had the opportunity to see the intersection of technology, in the self-storage industry. So what interesting problems are you really hearing from clients, and how is technology, shaping to help solve some of those problems? I'm sure, kind of like Microsoft, I'm sure you guys have been really pulled by, I'm sure, many clients about, how you can improve things for them. And I'm sure you get a million different requests from a million different people, so talk a little bit about, the first question, then how do you handle when everybody's asking for something different?
Totally. Yeah. So as I mentioned, I've really fallen in love with the self-storage industry. I think coming in, I was very naive, about, sort of door goes up, put stuff in, pay, how difficult can that be? One of my favorite parts of my job, given coming from a technology background, don't necessarily know how to intuitively think about the self-storage business. Get a chance to spend a lot of time talking to our customers. We have several events that we, both synchronous and asynchronous events that we run to make sure that we're grounded around some of the problems that our operators and owners are trying to solve. And so as I think back to our most recent version of this, which was we flew some folks down to Austin to talk to us about some of the problems that they're trying to solve technologically. The things that jumped out to me were blurring the line between the online experience and the move-in. I think, pursuant to what I said earlier, COVID had certainly accelerated this, and I think challenged. Just like I think there was some different thinking about whether or not you could truly run a tech company remote. Well, our hand was forced, and we had to figure it out. And now we're kind of rethinking some of those assumptions. We're seeing that play out with self-storage, right? So the things around blurring that line between an online transaction and a move-in face-to-face, things around educating folks online when they're interacting with a unit without overcomplicating. I think this is really interesting. A lot of people rent storage, but people that do it typically do it 1.5, on average, 1.5 times in their lifetime. So we like to think about storage units as hotel rooms or airplanes, but you're not actually that familiar with it. And I think as the shift to online happened, we realized the reliance of the manager and being able to talk someone through what's actually a somewhat complicated purchase when you're not familiar with the product, which a lot of folks aren't. I think upselling units, merchandise, insurance, et cetera, right? The move to try to get people to transact online versus in the in the office with a human being. I think there's a lot of interesting innovation happening on that space, both from our clients and within our business. And then accurately representing the units themselves. I fall victim to this all the time. I've been writing software for self-storage for 12 years. Very familiar with what a drive up 10 by 20, what the assumed height's going to be, and what access control really means, what you can really store there. The average consumer doesn't understand a lot of that. So that was an area of focus, is how we can better help our customers represent that with the push to online. Another was driving faster decisions profitably. So I mentioned the real estate cycle. When I first got into the industry, it was a demand constrained market. So it was all about how can we put people into storage units. Today, I think it's more about how can we maximize revenue and keep enough liquidity, for lack of a better term, in the having available inventory that we can that we can sell and monetize on the marketplace. And another thing, which I'll come back to here in a little bit, is just another thing I heard loud and clear from our customers is building custom business intelligence. Obviously, our products and every product out there comes with it a reporting suite. I think a lot of the software, a lot of what we do, a lot of it's commodity, but there's a lot of stuff in the margin there, particularly around the BI tooling, in which there's secret sauce around people running their businesses. And so hearing a lot of demand for improvements there, or ability to pull the data themselves and be able to answer their own questions. And I think companies like District Manager have done a good job of inserting themselves into the market in that way. And the last one I think is maybe the most interesting, and I alluded to this earlier, is kind of like the unmanned, less manned. I don't really know how to describe this concept, but I think a lot of traditional thinking in the storage market was having the facility on site and being there to talk customers through things was a non-negotiable, was a non-starter, and it paid for itself. And that's how you maximize your move-in rates. Again, because it kind of happened to us, I think there's been an interesting maybe kick to start to question, is that the future, having a manager on site at every single facility? And I think it ranges from all the way from nope, that's just not going to happen during our lifetime, to yes, I'm going to install drones and command centers in which I'm able to have a district manager manage 6+ facilities with an automated chatbot. There are these experiments happening in the industry today, all of which I think is really exciting, and I think it's kind of a best idea, or best execution wins. But those are sort of the three, I think, main drivers that I've heard from our clients over the last year.
Sure. So a little bit, we talk a lot about the unmanned and everything, and so it seems like now with the improving technology, there's probably less hardware that's needed. I mean, I was doing a panel this morning where one of the third-party management companies is basically feels really. I mean, they're managing 200 stores around the country. They're really utilizing call center and really having people just using their phones. I mean, not even bothering with the component. I mean, are you seeing a lot of that too with your clients?
Absolutely, we are on both fronts. I think that as technology is accelerating and public clouds becoming more available, Internet of Things is taking off. Certainly, the bar is lower than it was in the past. I'm glad you brought the phone thing. That was actually another really interesting insight I took away from a client that I think was further on the adoption curve around creating an environment where folks can, without any human interaction, physically move their stuff into a storage unit. And one of the learnings that they had, which I thought was really interesting, is a lot of people are messing with apps and messing with Bluetooth and whatever else. Again, go back to my mother-in-law. She's ordering groceries online now, right? But she still doesn't Bluetooth. Maybe when she's 80, right? She doesn't have all that figured out yet. But she does know how to text, right? She texts with her grandson. So I've seen some really cool innovation with respect to opening gaining access to a facility, gaining access to a unit, getting access to support. Just with texting, that interface is something that everyone kind of intuitively understands,
Sure.
and you remove the friction on that front.
I mean, I don't know what the numbers are today, and I don't know if you do either, but I got to believe the amount of internet searches and activity that's done. I mean, it's got to be 80% plus on phones, right, on mobile devices. I mean, it's got to be out there.
It is, yeah. It's very interesting. What we find in the marketplace, again, livelihood of the marketplace is understanding user behavior. We see a lot of interesting dynamics around folks like to research on their phone. Folks like to make transactions on their computers, which I think is interesting. So, I think having both of those from a online acquisition standpoint, I think you have to have a really strong presence in both. But then what we find is, there is a willingness now to actually give and grant access to facilities and units using the phone as the key, so to speak.
Great. So let's talk a little bit about kind of the things you're seeing that software companies are being asked to, or actually, lack of a better word, almost forced to integrate into their software. I mean, there's obviously some other components that people need to have in their point of sale software. What are the things you're seeing for your own, for Storable software companies as well as others? What are some of the things that people should be really thinking about as they're thinking about what they want in a software provider?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good question. A big part of my job as head of engineering is I need to stay on top of the trends in the broader SaaS industry or software industry. And then, why Storable writes me a paycheck is that, my team and I figure out how to apply those to the self-storage industry and some of the knowledge that we've gained over our tenures here. I think that, integrations, I think from an integration standpoint, I think the big hot ticket items right now that I'm seeing are business intelligence, which I already kind of hit on a little bit. Within business intelligence, obviously, there's movement within the software companies today to productize this and sell this as an individual product. The other interesting thing and trend that I'm seeing is the democratization of that data, right? So making it such that data can be extracted from your point of sale or your FMS software and run through what has now become like commoditized software and infrastructure through public clouds like Azure and AWS. So again, I can't say enough. I think how maybe the thing that's been most impressive in my time in the industry is how quickly we've gone from Excel and some canned crystal reports out of SiteLink to running, enterprise grade BI solutions for some of our customers, and the feasibility of doing that today without having to hire, a team of data engineers, because that's possible. The other three areas, maybe less about integration, but just things that I think are trends in the industry that we're seeing and that our customers are concerned about. Security. I think it's time for everyone to sort of take this seriously. I've been in software a long time. I think for a long time, software was a little bit of the Wild West in some areas. Every week you're seeing something about a ransomware attack or some sort of security bet. So just a trend that I've seen on the software side in general, and certainly we're taking it seriously within Storable, is making sure that buttoned up on that front. And then the other one that's really interesting, and then I'll pause, is natural language processing and artificial intelligence. There's a really cool company in the storage space called Swivel, who these chatbots and ability to take human sentences and parse them through artificial intelligence to drive people in the right direction. I think is super interesting for this industry, particularly you start to couple that with unmanned. And, I think there's a lot of opportunity for integrating that into the FMS technology stack.
Yeah, I can imagine. I mean, I got to believe, and I know we dealt with this a lot. We were a major SiteLink customer for many years before we gave up managing our own stores, and really loved the product. But there was always like little reports, and Marcus, who's a dear friend, I mean, he said, Ian, I can't make every single change to the software that everybody wants. We'll just be making change, adding on tools constantly. So I'm sure you must battle through that.
It's funny he said it to you, because when he comes to me, he says, Patrick, we've got to be able to develop every piece of reporting that every customer asks for. So we'll have to corner Marcus sometime and get to the bottom of that.
That's too funny. I would say that really the key is probably building the software so that people have the ability to pull what they need, right? I mean, that's the key, right?
I think that's right. I think we talk about it as context and core. So we built the core. There are a lot of similarities to the way storage facilities run their business, areas where our customers shouldn't be spending a whole lot of time thinking about the specific nuances as or solve problems, and exposing that context where the domain experts, which is all of you who know how to run your business, can leverage that information or leverage that behavior and tie those things together to sort of culminate in your competitive advantage, where you don't have to support the whole thing, just the part that drives you outsized value.
No, I remember back in the day, I was on the kind of the advisory council for SiteLink back in the day, and glad to hear that. I mean, it sounds like you guys bring people in and kind of, pull what people are looking for, and that's critically important. And it's the way you get what your clients want, right? I mean, that's probably a huge component for you, especially.
Absolutely. I tell all our developers, there's a reason that the tools that you write the software in are the best written tools on the planet. It's because you dog food it and you really understand the problems that you're trying to solve. We're never going to be in a place where we're operating storage facilities, but certainly the more we learn from our customers, the better our software is, because we know what problems they're trying to solve.
Well, this has been great. Really great talking with you. Sounds like you guys are really got your finger on the pulse and really trying to make improvements and make your clients better. And really good to get to know you better. And we really appreciate your time. And good
Likewise.
luck.
Really appreciate what you guys do, and I really appreciate you guys having me to talk with you guys for a little bit.
Great. Thanks.